Hi everyone, I'm Adeline Lee. It gives myself and Frieze so much pleasure to invite you. Frieze Connect, so much pleasure to welcome you this evening for the 9th edition of the Women in Power Speaker Series. Thank you to the Peninsula Beverly Hills for so generously hosting us here this evening. Thank you also to the ladies at Capitol in Brentwood Country Mart, where we are currently hosting a trunk show. If anyone would like to come by, I'll be there conducting personal fittings tomorrow. My team and I have been loving hosting our first events here in LA. Everyone has been so warm and welcoming, and the beautiful weather, I'm worrying that my team are going to stay here and let me go back alone. For those of you who may not know me, my work as a designer has always centered around serving women so that they can be powerful, in control, and ready. This speaker series was inspired by Mary Beard's Woman in Power, which examines how women's voices had been silenced throughout ancient history. As I read her work, I came to the realization that the fashion stage might not only be a place to look at women, but an opportunity to listen to them. 7 years ago, for my show at London Fashion Week, I invited 35 women orators, artists, politicians, Olympians, activists, entrepreneurs, and thinkers to take to the stage and speak of their personal power in a 2-hour marathon. That moment became the foundation for what is now the Women in Power Speaker Series. Over the years, the series has brought remarkable women together in London and New York, and each conversation in the series can be watched on our YouTube channel. Tonight's theme, the art of giving back, feels especially meaningful here in Los Angeles during Frieze Week, a moment when creativity, community, art, and culture converge. It's the perfect opportunity to remember that leadership is not only about achievement, but about contribution, not only about visibility, but responsibility. It's my great pleasure to introduce 2 extraordinary women whose work embodies the spirit. First, Robbie Brenner, President of Mattel Studios and Chief Content Officer. With more than 3 decades in film and television, Robbie has shaped some of the most culturally resonant stories of our time on a global scale. And we are joined by Sonya Yu, creative strategist, entrepreneur, and cultural advisor, founder of 419. Sonya also serves on the boards of the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art and the Hammer Museum. And moderating this evening's conversation is Laura Hertzfeld, Emmy Award-winning producer, writer, and editor. Please join me in welcoming the 3 of them.
Hi everyone, really excited to be here and to be here with the 2 of you. I want to kick things off. We're calling this panel The Art of Giving Back, and I wanted each of you to talk a little bit about what giving back means to you, whether that's philanthropy or mentorship, any of those things, but kind of when you think about that, what's kind of the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, I think growing up, my mother really inspired me. She was a doctor in a time where not many women were doctors, let alone working, and she really instilled in me to be a strong woman, to use your voice, that all you have is your voice and your power. And now I think, many years later, having 2 children, it's very important for me to sort of give back sort of what I got from my mother and what I learned. And I think, she really gave me the power to tell stories, to follow my heart, to follow my dreams, to listen to my authenticity, my inner voice, the things that drive me and inspire me in my life, and to feel like I could use that freedom and to really create. And so that's just been, I think, a great gift to have somebody that was an amazing mentor in my life, and to be able to follow my own dream and to live in my authenticity and my truth, and to tell great stories and to give back to the world in that kind of way.
To me, philanthropy, to echo Robbie's sentiment, is deeply personal. It's shaped by our privileges, whether that is our socioeconomic privilege, class, race, physical privileges, and it's also shaped by the context of our community and our families. So through those lenses, we're able to see what the gaps are and how we can fill in those gaps with our own unique shape and give back with authenticity and uniqueness.
Yeah. I think story is such a big part of both of the things that you have talked about, where it's, how do we create that narrative, and then where do opportunities to give back fall into that? Can you think of or talk about, one example of whether it's a project? I know, Robbie, you've worked on some really incredible films that tell incredible stories, and how do those kind of connect back into giving for you?
I've always been driven by stories that I don't know, that mean something to me, that resonate with me, and they've all wound up being kind of issues movies in a strange way. So I've made my movie about abortion. I just made a movie about the first woman to be, or first person to be extradited from the United States for killing 200,000 Jews in the Holocaust. I've made a movie about the children in Africa that were taken by Joseph Kony. And I made a movie about racism, about the Ku Klux Klan. And so I think, and Dallas Buyers Club, certainly, an amazing movie. Yeah. Just about the corrupt world of sort of big pharma, but at the center of it is just a very human relationship. So I love human stories. I love stories that are relatable, that feel universal, that are provocative, but that have something to say. And I think, nobody wants to make a movie that feels like medicine or feels like, they're hitting you over the head with some sort of message. But, movies that are inspiring and meaningful, I mean, those are the type of stories that I feel like I have to tell. The stories that nobody else wants to tell, to shine a light on something that feels important. And, those are the things that I run at, the things that scare me and that excite me.
Yeah, amazing. Sonya, I think you guys both approach this in very different ways. So I want to hear about kind of your narrative and how you kind of came to, being such an incredible art philanthropist in a way.
I was born in Beijing, China, and my parents grew up during the Cultural Revolution. So that was a time where artists, cultural icons were being murdered in the street in broad daylight and made an example of. So as my mom says it, even the idea of romance is a privilege to her. So after growing up in that environment and then immigrating to America, thought the idea of what is privilege and what is access. I didn't go to a contemporary art museum until I was in my 20s. Classic immigrant story, didn't have that time. I didn't even know collecting was a thing you could do until I was 30. I'm like, what do you mean collect art? Like what? I thought that's what you do, go see at museums. So being on that journey and learning about art and learning about myself and other cultures and communities, I've been able to open up my eyes, my brain, my heart, and then seeing how my kids have this tremendous access through me. So taking this idea of lack, where I didn't have that, and then transmuting it into an abundance mindset. That was part of the inspiration for the Moment PS1 gift for free access, because I directly saw the impact personally in myself, and I continue to see it in my kids every day. And I want to be able to give that.
It's amazing to me that you first saw, contemporary art, so kind of coming late to it. What was it about that type of art, or was there a particular piece that you saw that moved you so much that you felt, this is where I need to spend more of my energy?
Every piece that turns my no into a yes. When I started collecting, I was like, no sculptures. Now over 40% of my collection is sculpture. I mean, all these things, right, that we tell ourselves, like, I can't do this. This is not for me. And then to have life just give that back to you and be like, really? Are you sure about that? All the things I've been able to learn about myself and others through keeping an open mind and practicing that. So all the art that makes me feel something, that makes me examine myself or others more closely, that's what hits for me.
Yeah, I kind of want to ask the same question of Robbie when it comes to film. What does that hit that for you? How do you know?
Oh, God, I think it's, when you read a story and you feel like it gets under your skin and you don't have a choice. It's just like, I have to do this. I mean, Dallas Buyers Club was a 20-year journey of getting that movie made, where everybody said to me, you want to make a movie about a guy that has AIDS? I mean, what? So, and I said, yeah, but it's not about that. It's so much bigger than that. So I think it's just those stories that, that speak to you. And as you said, when people say no, I like to say yes. I mean, it's those moments that sort of make the hair stand on the back of your neck, that, that you're afraid and you're scared, that that you need to really kind of run towards it. Yeah. And it's going to be something special.
What kind of advice would either of you, both of you, give to folks who think, I'm not at that level, I can't give back in this big way, but it's a lifelong journey? Where does someone start?
I think you just have to not get ahead of yourself. I mean, I think that, life, everything is a series of feelings and experiences. And I think that, I think we have a tendency as people to get very overwhelmed with situations, with people, with circumstances, with issues, with everything. And I think as long as you stay sort of true to yourself and listen to your heart and your intuition, then that is what is going to guide you in your life. I mean, that is really the strongest thing that we have, is that feeling that tells you before your head tells you, that says, I know. I mean, for me, when I'm going to make a movie, I feel it before I think it. And I say, like, that's the one that I'm going to kind of run towards. And so I would tell or give that kind of advice, like, don't get overwhelmed. Just, quiet yourself, stay true to what it is, go with what you feel, little, baby steps. It's not a race. It's, it's a walk. It's a marathon.
I totally agree. I think it starts at participation. Participating in whatever way that any of us can, whether that's going to your local restaurant and supporting that local restaurant, a smile to a stranger, paying it forward, that goes a long way. And when we have fun, when we're enjoying ourselves, that's when we're more open-minded. And that's when we're more open-hearted as well. And so we're able to identify those spaces that we can actually make an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things you hit on earlier, and I think we're talking about generally, is accessibility and being able to experience, whether it's going to the movies or going to an art museum, being able to have art as part of your life. One of the stats that I read recently was that less than 10% of museum visitors are local in a lot of these cities, which just like broke my heart, because I feel like I go to museums here all the time and I love it so much. And I think your gift at PS1 really speaks to that. And I'm curious kind of how you feel about how do you expand that access, and how does that look, kind of more broadly?
We underestimate how much of a burden every day is. The math that people are doing between, do I spend this money on eggs or Netflix? I have an hour lunch break. Is it worth paying $30 for this museum entry? To alleviate that math means that we can then drop into our bodies and be more open to experiencing things and letting things in. So that was what I was hoping to achieve with the PS1 gift, is to, in small ways, alleviate the pressure of being every day in today's environment.
Yeah. I know I really want you to talk about Barbie, Robbie. I'm just up here. We were talking about it a little bit before the panel, and I think you've done so many movies that have these like really big themes, and I think Barbie has a lot of big themes that a lot of women resonated with, but doesn't always come up as, a giving back kind of film, but I think it gave back in really huge ways, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the journey to get there with it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it definitely gave back to the world. I think, well, first of all, Greta Gerwig is just a force of a person, of a director, of a writer, of just a singular, just incredible, authentic human being. And she just, and she's so lovely, but she just had, you know, this was really her own kind of intimate story. Like, she loved Barbie. She's like, I love Barbie. I want to tell this movie. But, you know, we heard 50 or 60 pitches even before Greta came into the picture, and she had no idea what she wanted to write. She just said, I want to tell a story that lives between a Birkenstock and a high heel. And I have no idea what it's going to be, but I want to do it. And I was like, great, let's do it. But you can imagine what it would be like convincing a studio that they're not going to get a treatment, and that, you know, she's going to go write this story that really there was no story. I mean, at one point she sent a haiku to us that was like 5 lines. So when it dropped into my inbox during COVID, I closed the door. It was 156 pages or something. It was like a Quentin Tarantino script, but every moment of it was just so incredible, and you knew that it was just going to be one of these kind of unique, it was like something I had never read before in my life, and I knew that it was going to be one of those iconic, you know, movies. So it was really, it was an amazing journey, but I think what really worked about the movie is that, you know, these were her personal feelings and experiences with women, and how she felt about relationships with men and the workplace and women and all the things that we're so afraid to talk about. She spoke about, and she did it in a way that was funny, and it was real. And so it really resonated, and obviously COVID and whatnot. And I think people were sick and tired of being locked up in their house, and it became this kind of pink parade, a pink revolution of people going to the theater. You'd go to the theater and everybody was dressed in pink. It was really an amazing, just kind of, I think, happy moment for people. And it was a movie that was entertaining, and it had something really important to say.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the difficulty of getting some of these things made, and some of the other projects that you've worked on have been really long commitments. I'm wondering, how do you kind of push past the no's? And I'd love, Sonya, for you to talk about that a little bit, and about the kind of the journey with all the with PS1 and anything else that, you know, makes sense there.
A lot of patience.
Yeah.
And you know what really helps is the idea of wonderment, and not being such a expert or stagnant in things anymore. You know, how many times have you been in a conversation with someone and you're like, oh God, this self-important person, like, oh God. How do we practice more curiosity and find the joy in all of these moments? Because we're gonna hit no's. Life is hard out there. And it took really understanding myself, still having fun, not being burnt out by the system, to find the right home for this idea and the right partner in Connie Butler.
Yeah, I think there's like a bit of that kind of, like, we forget about the joy, and I think the things that at least the three of us get to work on every day are things that are really fun. And I think it's business, but it's really fun. And so I think keeping that as part of it is such a great point. What are kind of the things that what do you look at and you're like, I have to do this? Like, is there like you know, when you go to a gallery, or when you read a script, like, what are the things that are like, this is gonna resonate?
I really love the idea of not knowing, as scary as that is. Still being in that phase of discovery. I recently went to a runway show, and very grateful that I get to go to these runway shows all over the world. And of course, there's the like people in the crazy fits and, you know, the front row and all that. But my favorite part was the guy next to me had never been to a runway show before, and he was just like eyed wide open. This is amazing. This is incredible. It was so fun to see it through his eyes again. I just gassed him on. I'm like, yeah, what do you see? Who's wearing the worst look? Who's like the funniest? And that's when I had the most fun. It wasn't about like the clicks or, you know, seeing which celebrity. That's all very nice, but just being in that childlike wonder was really, really joyful.
I would say similarly, you know, I love movies. I mean, it's great to be able to go to the movie theater and to really lose yourself in story and performance and to leave the theater and to sit and talk about, you know, that movie. It just really resonated with me in that moment, and you know, and you think about it and you think about it and it just sits with you, and it affects you in some sort of way that you don't even know how it's going to move your life or change you in some sort of way. I just watched Sentimental Value on the plane. I hate to say I watched it on a plane, but I did. It's one of the only moments, you know, you have, you know, we're all so busy. But I just thought to myself, my God, what a beautiful, amazing, layered, provocative, emotional movie that is about, you know, humans and the human experience. And you know, we don't really make movies like that anymore. We make movies with capes and swords and, you know, all these things and, you know, lots of visual effects, which are all great in their own kind of way. But to me, I just love human stories that are real, that are grounded, that are about something, and that are emotional. Those are the stories that I love to see and tell.
I think it's really, you know, when you know it when you see it, and I think it's easy to say yes to things that you love, but you must get approached all the time about whether, you know, anything, whether it's philanthropic or film or work. How do you say no to things that don't kind of suit your portfolio?
I think learning to say no was one of the hardest lessons in my entire life, and I'm just learning actually now. To say no. You know, I think we want to please people. That's just generally the nature of us as human beings. I love people. I love to always have my door opened and entertain. And, you know, so many people, I think, approach me in my life and ask me to do things. And instead of just saying, let me think about it, or, you know, I don't know, or no, I'll say, okay, sure, you know, and then next thing you know, you're like, God, why did I do that? So we've all been there. So I think the power of saying no is really important. I think having boundaries is super important. And, you know, we can't be everything for everyone. I think it's, you know, you need to ask yourself, what really speaks to me? What resonates with me? What am I going to be happy waking up doing every, you know, not every single day, but however long I'm going to be involved in whatever that project is. So I think just really thinking about it, maybe taking a step back, being a little patient and pausing before saying yes.
No's empower our yeses. So what we've already said yes to, what we want to say yes to, we have to create that space. So the boundary of no is so healthy and important. And a lot of it to me comes down to fit. You're not going to wear a shoe that doesn't fit right and walk around the entire fair. You're not going to wear a look that doesn't fit. So that's typically my answer. It's not a good fit. And I hope it does find a home somewhere else. That's when it can truly make an impact and have the power it needs to continue.
Yeah. Do you think that philanthropy as a word is like the right word to talk about how to give back? And even though it's maybe part of it, not all of it, but how do you kind of define that for yourself? And, you know, I think people get involved in all kinds of different things. How did you choose art to be the kind of universe where you spend a lot of your time?
I don't like the label of philanthropist. I think it's a really heavy word. I think a lot of labels tend to be really heavy and silo us into these molds and identities that don't fit. So I don't like the word, I don't like the label, I resist a lot of it because then it allows me the freedom to still flow. When we start self-identifying as experts, that's when our sentences start ending in periods instead of question marks. and that could really close us off to new possibilities and all the blind spots that we know. So I really don't see myself as a philanthropist. I give back in the ways that I can, and I'm open-minded into learning new ways that I can give back and learning about new communities and fields that I can spark a new passion and investment in.
Yeah. So really, Robbie, I think we talked a little bit before. I wanted to hear about kind of how some of these projects that you've worked on have inspired giving back in other parts of your life.
Yes, we were talking about it yesterday. I remember when I was pregnant with my second daughter, India. She's now 17, but I was about 7 months pregnant with her, and I was watching Dateline, and I saw this kind of wild man. His name was Sam Childers on TV on Dateline, and he was called the Machine Gun Preacher. And he grew up in Philadelphia, and he had a really kind of checkered past. He was a drug dealer and did some terrible things in his life, and he found God, and he went to Africa, and he saved children from Joseph Kony and the Lord's Resistance Army. And so this story was just unbelievable. He was riveting. I got on a plane and I went and I met him, and 3 years later we were shooting that movie in Africa. And I just was so, it just hit me in a way that was so powerful that I thought, something is here for me. I don't know what it is, but it's going to find me. And ultimately, I got involved with a water charity. I met this young man, Seth Maxwell, who's become a very close friend of mine, who has the Thirst Project in Los Angeles, which is the leading youth water organization. And I've built 6 wells in Africa. My daughter and I went 2 years ago for 2 weeks to Eswatini and built a well. And for me, it's just amazing to give back in any small way that we can. I'm not a big philanthropist, but I enjoy just the connection and seeing the way that people live differently, and just the experience of bonding with my daughter and sharing life with these people. So,
yeah, it's amazing. It's important work. And I think, when I really liked when you said that philanthropy was such a heavy word, and we were talking a little bit about like sustainability and how to kind of keep things going, and I think that word maybe is a little bit intimidating for people, and I want to talk a little bit about how we can make this space of giving back less intimidating, and especially in the art world, but kind of everywhere. I wonder if you have response on that.
The system that we currently have for art philanthropy is no longer working. And you see it in the headlines all the time, but the people who can actually instill a new system need to be open-minded to new people, new identity, creative ways of thinking and approaching the problem. So this fear of the unknown, the low risk tolerance that I see in a lot of philanthropic models is breaking, but we have to be able to practice that bravery and vulnerability and listen to new ideas and really give it a chance. Like, we need to give each other a chance, not even just new systems, right? Look at the container that we're in right now, the rigidity, the xenophobia, the sexism. That's not sustainable. So if we keep saying that it's not sustainable, then what are we actually going to do about it? So let some new minds in the door, some cross-generational thinking, cross-industry. We are only just a collection of our own individual experiences. So when we really start melding those ideas, that's when it gets really exciting, and that's when alchemy can truly happen.
Yeah, and you can't kind of divorce art from politics, particularly right now. Has what's going on in the world, and we don't have to get deep into politics, but has it shifted how you think about storytelling and about giving back?
God, that's a tough one. I'm scared which way to go with this. Look, it's a very complicated time in the world. I think there's a lot going on. There's a lot of noise. It's polarizing. It's scary. I can't even believe, I mean, as a Jewish woman, that I'm sort of have experienced sort of what I've seen and witnessed, not just for me, for so many different people. So I just made this movie that, as I said before, The Housewife, that will be coming out in the fall, that deals with a woman who goes into hiding, who gets exposed for being, having aided in killing 200,000 Jews. I don't know. I just felt like I had to tell that story as a Jewish woman, as a story that just really resonated with me. That felt, I've been involved with it for 10 years, so way before sort of what has happened in the world. But I think it's just important to expose and to tell stories that are meaningful in whatever way that means to you. I'm not interested in talking about politics or telling stories about politics, but if there's an interesting story that has to do with politics or whatever, then great, then I'll tell that. But I think it's just about finding the things that resonate with you personally and finding your truth. And I think when you live into that truth and those personal stories, then you have the ability to make something that feels wholly unique and original and intentional and could be great.
Yeah, absolutely. The word expose used is right on. I call it exposure therapy. My very being is exposure therapy in the rooms that I'm in. Privilege is a responsibility. So even though there might be privileged spaces that I'm in that I don't enjoy, that I consider very dutiful, I am there because I'm there for every person that will never be able to be in that room, that can't bear witness or have a voice. And so all my platforms, every opportunity I get, I live my culture, I live authentically, and that is exposure. So hopefully other people who won't get out of their ivory towers will be exposed to it either way.
Amazing. I think we have a few minutes for questions. I think we have about 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left. I don't know where we're at. Okay. So if folks do have questions, feel free to stand up and someone will get you a mic. I don't want to. Anybody? Yeah.
Well, I moved here basically with nothing. I moved, and I had a dream, and that's all I had. It's just my own thoughts, my own dreams of what I wanted and what I wanted to do. And I would just say, like, you're here for a reason. Clearly, you've had some success, and like I said before, it's not a race. It's you just have to keep your head down, and you have to do the work, and you have to stay intentional. I have a friend that has a tattoo on her arm that says, "What would Fincher do?" And she reminds herself every day, like, I only want to be part of things that inspire me, that are great. It's very easy to get distracted by people, by doing things, whether it's because you need money, like we all need money. We all, especially when you're young and you're starting out, it's like you can't be, as selective of what it is, like, I want to do that. You can't be as choosy. So I would just say, just try to stay true to your vision and what you see, seek out your mentors. I mean, I think one thing that, for me, it's like, who are the people that inspire you in your life? Who do you want to model your career after? Can you reach out to those people? Can you, just try to be selective and try to stay on your path and stay true to yourself and the things that you want to do.
I don't do it for them, I do it for myself, knowing that I'll be smarter, stronger, faster, better. I'll take their handbook and I'll do it better. I'll take their strategy and do it better while looking good. So that is what fuels me. So I learn, I study sociologically, like, oh, that's what it's like to walk into a room and like believe that every single person is there for you, whether it's your entertainment or your knowledge or whatever. Okay, I can do it. I'm gonna do it and not look like a jerk. I'm gonna do it with grace. I'm going to be a better model. So that's what keeps me going, is I know I can do it better. Confidence is earned. So all the mistakes, all the no's, they're all learning opportunities. So to have the resilience to bounce back and keep going, that's where confidence comes from. And that's how we're gonna find our own voice, by making mistakes, by not being afraid to fail or be cringe or do something different.
Yeah, I think I would echo what Sonya said. I think it's just, you just have to live in your truth, and it's better to sort of fail in that way. Something doesn't work out, you don't get a job, or what, at least you were true to yourself and to your heart. And I think just always listen to that, always grab your inner voice, your inner self that knows before you know, because that's always going to guide you.
Yeah.
Right.
I kind of want to follow up on one of these questions, which is like, what kind of advice do you give to, or how do you kind of bring other women up with you in these spaces, and how are you kind of approaching that kind of next generation in both of your fields? How are you bringing people in?
Well, I think that everybody has a good idea. I think you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with, truly. And I, in my office, it's like I listen to what the assistants have to say. First of all, like, there's generations between us, and I'm going, I got to stay relevant. I got to stay with it. Thank God I've got two girls. They're like, you better listen to this music and get cool and get on Snapchat and swipe. I'm like, so I'm staying relevant. I'm not aging out in this world. But so I think it's important just to have your finger on the pulse. Yes, to know what younger people, older people, everybody is thinking, to absorb so much knowledge. But yes, I want to it's not just women. Of course I want to prop women up. I have two girls. I came from a very strong lineage of women, but I think that, there are just so many smart, incredible people out there. A great idea can come from anywhere, and there are a lot of bad ideas from younger people too. And you got to say, do better, see the movies, read the books, because a lot of people, they got these phones and they don't want to do anything. It's like the work is went out the window. They don't write letters anymore. There is no analog, as we were talking about before. It's just I'll send you a pic and you send me a pic. So it's stop, think about things, take people in, look at people, learn. I'm trying to teach the younger people in my office. It's important to take people in, to see them and to hear them, and we hear that a lot, but truly.
Yeah, well, I think it's not something that not everybody does. When you said, listening to your assistants and listening to people's ideas, I think that's really unique and something that not everybody has brought to the table always, so it's great. Yeah.
Truly, yes. Yeah. Asking those questions, understanding that there's teachers everywhere, whether it's in our children, our assistants, in the younger generation, and then training. We all need that help. None of us are too much of an expert in anything, truly, to be honest, and we can all get better. So being humble. Martin Wong.
Oh,
wow. Isn't that hard?
Rust and Bone. It's a great movie. You should all see it. So, from the time I was very young, my father loved photography, and back then, you would actually develop, pictures and watch them sort of come to life, in the dark room, and he would build a dark room in the bathroom, and we would take photos and watch them kind of come to life, and that was always so exciting and inspiring to me, and something that we really bonded together on. And I don't know, I loved storytelling and moving images. I remember I used to go to this shoe store on 83rd and 3rd in Manhattan. I grew up in New York City, actually. And when you would go to the shoe store, they would give you a piece of paper and you would write your name down, not like now. And they would like call your name out, like in the old days. Like, you know, my father would always write like duck. And they'd be like, is there a duck here? Anyway, but I remember he wrote down his name and I went off and there was like a flip sort of movie, like projector that was just images kind of pieced together like that would turn into a film. And I was always just more concerned with sort of watching the movies than I was buying shoes. And so it was just, I always, you know, loved storytelling and from the time I was very, very young. So that was something that I always knew that I wanted to do. And it just kind of manifested in my life and continued on and got stronger and stronger and stronger.
Be gentle. Be gentle on yourself. Be gentle in the moments where you're overwhelmed by the tantrums and the overstimulation. And be gentle, yeah.
I think be gentle, that's a really good one, but also I think not judgmental. Like I think as a mother, you know, I find that have been so hard on myself sometimes, like I'm not good enough, I'm not there. How can I balance my life with being this career woman, yet showing up for my children? I remember one time coming to my daughter's, I was on a movie set, I'd been gone forever, and I came home to her skating competition, and all of the girls had their makeup on, and I would like came to do the makeup, and the coach looked at me and said, you did it terribly. I was like, okay, she said, we'll do it. So I remember going into the corner and I started to cry and then I kind of pulled myself together and was like, okay. But I think it's just, you know, in that moment, I just realized, I mean, look, it's like we're all human beings. We're all trying to do the best we can in our lives. Like life, motherhood, we don't have all the answers, you know? I think it's just be as present as you can. Try not to be too judgmental. And just be as present as you can for your children. Those moments where you don't take the time to sort of look at them, to be with them, to look them in the eye and they run out the door. It's like we never know what tomorrow is going to bring. It's like just try to be present in your life. Try to be in the moment. And I would just say to myself, just be more present. Be more present in every moment. Look people in the eye. Take them in. You never know what's going to happen next.
She had to kill off a part of herself. She left me in China at the age of 1 to escape from China. And that was during a time where there was no FaceTime, no calls. Imagine for those mothers out there leaving your 1-year-old in just no contact. And when I think about that, I think I'd have to just numb a whole part of myself. So in some ways, so much of her life had to be numbed, which is why I take even the idea of being romantic to be a privilege. Like, I'm not gonna cringe at that or, you know, look down on it, thinking about all the things that my parents couldn't have, didn't have, and seeing that as a privilege and taking it as a very serious responsibility, even the idea of having fun. Because not everyone can have fun.
Again, I think that's all we have time for. But I think that's a really good note to end on, to remember the privilege we have and enjoy life as it comes. So thank you both so much. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Edline. And before I say anything further, and I don't need to have my back to you, thank you to Robbie, Sonya, and Laura. It's a real privilege to be in the company of such accomplished women and such well-dressed women. Thank you, Edline. And thank you all for being here. It's an incredibly busy Frieze week, and your presence truly means a lot to us. I'm based in London, so I'm still getting used to LA traffic, so being here is much appreciated. For those of you who may be less familiar with Frieze Connect, I wanted to share a little bit of context. Frieze Connect is our global community of art lovers and emerging collectors, people who are passionate about deepening their engagement with contemporary art and the cultural conversations that surround it and shape it. Beyond access to the fair, we curate a year-round program designed to offer meaningful access to artists, to galleries, and to institutions. Tonight's theme, the art of giving back, resonates deeply with us. At Frieze Connect, community informs our decisions and guides our choices. We think a great deal about how we can support artists, our galleries, and cultural institutions, all while connecting them with a wider audience of art enthusiasts and those looking to support on a deeper level, always looking to contribute positively to the wider art ecosystem. As Robbie and Sonya have mentioned tonight, there are many ways to give back through patronage, advocacy, mentorship, time, or thoughtful collecting. What matters is remaining conscious of the role we each play and the kind of cultural landscape we want to help sustain. With that, I want to introduce you to my wonderful colleague, Michael, who leads our program in the US. He's not dressed in Adeline Lee, but maybe we can convince her to start menswear soon. He'll share a little bit more about what we do and how you might join us in building our community together. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ariana. And once again, thank you, Adeline, Robbie, Sonya, and Laura, and of course, the fabulous Peninsula Beverly Hills. As Ari mentioned, I oversee Frieze Connect here in the US, and in the last 2 years, it's been an immense pleasure of mine to witness and participate in the growth of the program, as well as our vibrant community here in Los Angeles. I'm so happy and grateful to see so many of our members here today, so many faces that I recognize from all of our studio visits, panel conversations, private collection visits, the occasional cocktail, and everything in between. Our members come from all walks of life and have an international presence, but most importantly, they have a shared commitment to contemporary culture and connection. I'm proud to say that this year is our most robust Frieze Connect program yet, with 14 events taking place throughout Los Angeles this week. Frieze Los Angeles is VIP opening day tomorrow. It's not too late to join us at the fair, at the remaining events this week and beyond, with our monthly events taking place in each of our fair cities across the globe, year-round. So for those of you who have not joined Frieze Connect yet, Ari and I are here to answer any questions that you have, and we would love to welcome you to the community. With that, thank you all for coming, and we hope you have a fabulous Frieze week.